Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Deep Rooted Self-Love Podcast, episode number 4. This time I remembered. Today I'm coming with a solo episode, and I almost didn't record this today because I wanted to record this early in the morning when I have most energy, but it didn't quite work out with the baby and with Nikko, who had to finish some work as well. So now I'm doing this in the afternoon, and I almost was like, oh no, I want to do this perfect. I want to do this on another day where I have tons of energy and I can be my best self on camera, on podcast. But I guess sometimes done is better than perfect. And Nikko was actually a huge part of this because he was like, if you're not going to record this, I'm going to record a podcast. And I was like, no, if he's going to record a podcast, then I can do it too. So today, Shumi is wearing her half dress here. Let me just take that off. Okay, so today I wanted to speak to you about something that I realized for myself in my life. I did a questionnaire on Instagram on things that you want to hear from me on the podcast, and a lot of you said, or the majority of you said, they want to hear about my own personal journey and lessons that I've learned and challenges that I've gone through. So let's start with that today. And of course, I'm going to always try to include the other topics as well, but let me start this way. So yeah, something that I realized is I don't want to manifest anything right now, which is so strange for me because I feel like I've always been someone who wants the next thing. And I always have something to manifest. And I think for a long time, a very long time, it was a healthy relationship, a partner. After that, it was certain travel things, and especially it was around work. And then I wanted a baby and a family. And I feel like I've just, attracted, manifested, however you want to say it, these things into my life. And I'm really at a point right now where I'm just floating, and it's so strange. I don't think I've had many of these moments in my life. And of course there's like things that I want to do after and things that I have in mind, that where I want to bring my business, for example, but nothing where I feel like it's like pressing right now, and nothing where I feel like, oh, I need to act on this, or my life is not a good life if this is not in my life. And I guess that's honestly my experience with manifestation in general. Whenever you are attracting from a place of lack, and when you're attracting from a place of dog pedaling, the thing doesn't really tend to come into your life. So yeah, but I had this realization the other day because Nikko and I were on a walk, and that's really the way we connect at the moment, on walks where we just talk and stuff while we rock Jano to sleep. And he was telling me about all these goals that he has for his business and all these things, and I was like, I just don't know what I want to manifest. And at first my brain went like, oh my God, something is wrong with me. I got to sit myself down and I got to, figure out what to manifest. And we had a brunch the other day here as well. And I talked to some friends, and they were all like saying like what they're bringing into their life in the next year and everything. And yeah, and even then I was like, I don't really know. And I just realized for myself that that is totally fine, and that it is okay to pause and enjoy what you have achieved, what you have accomplished, what you've attracted into your life, whatever, or nothing even that you've actively accomplished or attracted or whatever, just enjoying where you are in life, if that is what you feel like, right? Most of us, I feel like we have to train ourselves to be grateful, and then I'm in the position where I'm like, I'm just really grateful for where I am right now, and I just trust that things are flowing in the right direction. And then still like the inner critic comes on and is like, oh, you need to manifest something, you need to do the next thing. But maybe you are in a time right now as well where you don't know what comes next for your life, you don't know what you want to manifest. Maybe you are completely content where you are, or maybe you actually don't know where to start, or you don't even know what to manifest. I oftentimes have clients who are like, I don't even know how I want my life to look like. I don't know where I want to live. I don't know what I want for my life. They're kind of stuck in that way. And one advice that I always give people for that is to first figure out what it is in your life that you are not liking right now. Shumi, you're almost falling off the couch. What it is that you don't like, and then write down the opposite of that, right? So if you're like, I don't know where I want to live, but I am unhappy with, I don't know, the bad weather in Berlin, then you write down, I want to live somewhere where it's sunny all year long, for example. Just an example. There's two things that I want to bring across in this podcast. So first of all, sometimes you don't need to really figure out what it is that you want to manifest, like the next big paycheck or the partner, or what are other things you can manifest, the apartment or whatever. Sometimes you can just approach your life in certain themes, and that's something that I did. I spoke about this in my newsletter, in the same way that I just explained, right? I was just like, okay, I feel overwhelmed in certain situations. I feel tired. I feel uninspired by life. I was like in the first few weeks after Jano was born, and I was like in the postpartum time, and I was just like the roof was falling onto my head. I don't know if you say that in English. I think in English you say cabin fever. And I was like, okay, what need is not being met right now, and what is my need instead? And that way I came up with 4 themes that I wanted to approach in my life right now. For me, these themes are prioritization, authenticity, adaptivity, and support. So without manifesting anything in specifics, these are the themes that I want to bring into my life. And prioritization means, for example, deciding that I'm gonna leave the house a mess, even though that's nothing that I used to do before I had a child, and instead journaling or resting or watching something in the middle of the mess, or honestly also prioritizing with social events. And I, for example, noticed that right now talking to people on the phone is something that I find really hard to do in my day right now with baby, but B, if I have time, if I have an hour of time, I'd rather meet someone in person, or I'd rather record a podcast, or I'd rather sleep, to be honest. So that's part of prioritization. Then the next thing that is adaptivity. Yeah, I mean, that's a huge one just when you have a baby, right? Especially if a baby under 6 months old, from what I know so far. We'll see what I'm going to say when you're 6 months old. But just accepting that a strict routine is just not going to work the way it used to, and just taking it by ear, playing it by ear. Like, for example, today, right? I was like, I'm going to record my podcast. I'm going to get up. I'm going to put some makeup on. I'm going to feel fresh, have a coffee, and then record this podcast. And then turns out it all didn't go as planned as I wanted to. Jano wasn't sleeping at that time. Nikko had to do something in the living room as well, etc. And now I'm just doing it in the evening, or in the afternoon, not the evening. And it's working totally fine. This is actually really good for me right now. I'm noticing that even though before I was like kind of in a bit lower mood, now I'm like actually really enjoying speaking to you guys, and it's really giving me a lot of energy to do this. So maybe this is for you to hear today as well. Sometimes done is better than perfect, and you're going to roll with it when you're in it, and it oftentimes gives you the energy. I had this so many times, by the way, with classes, class that I taught, especially because I oftentimes teach evening classes, that before I'd be like, oh God, now I have to go and like drive there, even though all I want to do is lie in bed and sleep or watch a series, or I don't know. And then when I actually get to the class and I connect with all the beautiful humans that come to my classes, and we do the journaling together, the meditation and everything, I just feel so uplifted. So yeah, sometimes you can't just wait for the perfect time. And I think that's also really important. I'm completely going off on one right now, but whatever. I think that's also really important when you're self-employed. You like, for things like making a podcast or recording content, or I don't know, writing a newsletter, you are so on your own timing that sometimes you can really get lost in perfectionism, because you always have another time to do it, right? No one is saying you got to get this out now, or you have to do this together with other people. And something like teaching my classes or even client sessions are really such an expander for me of what is possible when you just have to show up, and how good you can actually show up when you just show up. Yeah, but that's still part of adaptivity, so I guess it still fits in. And then the next part is support. So yeah, that is another theme in my life right now. accepting support. And for me, again, that is a big part of having a baby, but I think other people can relate to that too. I think we all tend to micromanage sometimes, and especially when you are a mama who wants to have things a certain way and whatsoever, it can be easy to look over your partner's shoulder all the time and see how they're doing it. Like Nikko the other day literally fell asleep while Jano was under his little mobile, which is something that I wouldn't allow myself to do, because I'm like, you gotta spend like present time, where you gotta be present when you spend time with them and stuff. And my midwife said to me the other day, it's like, you just have two parents that are coming into this mix for this little guy, and he can be so lucky that he has both of you, and both of you are going to bring different things to the table or to his life. And of course, not the only thing that Nikko's bringing to the table is sleeping while Jano's under the mobile. But, just accepting that some things, like, he is more laissez-faire, and then on other things, maybe I'm more laissez-faire, and that is totally fine, and that Nikko is his own kind of parent, and it's not mine to make sure that both of us are in a certain way that I want us to be. And that's what I mean with accepting support, right? Because if you want to micromanage everything, you also can't accept help, and you can't accept support. And and that goes into other ways as well, right? I'm definitely thinking of getting a babysitter at some point, and I know it's going to be so hard for me, and I know I'm going to want to micromanage the shit out of this person. But I'm just going to have to trust that the person that I choose to take care of my kid is going to be a valuable asset to his life, or is going to be a valuable part of his life. So that's one part that I wanted to speak about. So figure out, what are your themes for this new chapter of your life, right? This year or the quarter or whatever it is. And again, it's always easiest, I think, to start with what's not working in your life right now. Or maybe everything's working completely great and you don't even have anything to complain about, which I think for us humans is very rarely. But that was another energy that I kind of tapped into, or that that was another part that I felt was going on in my life, right? This feeling of everything is really great right now. I love where we live. I love that we're financially stable. I love that I have a little boy that I just love so much and that I love taking care of. I'm finally a mom, which is something that I wanted my entire life. I know I have a beautiful business that I slowly am tapping into, but I can also come back to whenever I feel ready. And I have clients that want to work with me and all that. So that was all great. And that was the moment where I was like, I actually don't know what to manifest. And what I realized in that moment is that sometimes you don't need to manifest anything. Sometimes you can just follow your excitement. And sometimes you also can just wait for your excitement. And I'm also a manifesting generator. So to all the manifesting generators out there, I think you can probably relate even more. And I also want to say that the things that I'm going to talk about on this podcast, like the advice that I give or whatever, that is my personal experience, right? So this is not, what I'm doing here is not coaching. Coaching is not giving advice, right? In coaching, I help my clients to find their own resources, to make their lives better, to bring more self-love into their lives, to heal themselves, etc. But on the podcast, of course, since I'm by myself, I'm going to give advice, but that's advice from my own life. And I think there's so many different kinds of humans out there. So something that works for me might not work for you. And even something that works for me might not work for me in a couple of months. So this is where I got to be careful as well, to not have too high, perfectionistic expectations for myself, because I know I will, in a couple of months, if I keep going with these podcasts, I'm going to probably come back to this podcast or another one. I'm going to oh, that's not how I see the world anymore. But I think that's also totally fine. We're always at different stages. And I'm just hoping that maybe my experience is applying to where you are right now, or maybe you want to try it out, right? So, going back to following excitement. And I think this is really important in moments where you don't actually really know where you want to go next, besides figuring out, okay, maybe things that aren't working, and then figuring out the opposite of where you want to go, but also just engaging with life, engaging with the universe, and just figuring out how is the universe asking for my attention at the moment. And I think that is such a beautiful way of living. And for me, how that looks like right now is doing this podcast. When I started the podcast for the first time, that was about a year ago. Can you please stop licking me? Thank you. It's my dog, by the way. She loves to lick, and I just find it so gross sometimes. When I started this podcast around a year ago, pretty quickly after that, I got pregnant, and then I also, I had very low energy, but I also got really busy with client work, which is something that I had been manifesting for a long time. So I really just got that momentum going, which was beautiful and was such an amazing feeling of accomplishment for myself and for my business. And but I didn't really have time for the podcast anymore. I really had to prioritize so crazy during pregnancy with my energy, especially during the last trimester and the first trimester. I didn't really have time or energy for the podcast. And now it's actually the opposite, because right now I can't schedule any client sessions really yet, because my schedule is just so flexible. And if I said to a client, I'm gonna have a session with you at 4 p.m. on Monday, I can't promise that I can actually make that, and that I can't promise that I won't have to breastfeed in the middle, which of course in the middle of a hypnosis session is really unhelpful. And that's why that's not possible right now. But it gives me the possibility of, whenever I have time, which I do have time once in a while, right? It's just not fixed times. I can record a podcast. I can do my newsletter. I can do the things that I actually enjoy most in my business, besides the in-person or person-to-person work. And that's what I'm doing now. And I don't know where that's going to take me. I don't know, how long it's going to inspire me, but I'm just going to do it. And I want to also say that, going back to the beginning part, I think it's important to look at your overall life and see what is exciting you, right? What is inspiring you. But then I really think it's also important to have the discipline to stick with it, because my boyfriend just said this to me. What was it that he exactly said? He's like, moments of inspiration, and I'm completely butchering what he said right now, but just take it however I'm going to say it now. Moments of inspiration are rare, so you need the discipline to actually get the momentum going on the things that you want to do. Something like that. So I'm just going to say how I see it. For example, today I wasn't sure if I felt like recording this podcast, and I'm really enjoying it. And that just being like, I'm only going to do what excites me, sometimes makes us fall very short of doing the things that we want to do and making them into what we want to make them into. I oftentimes have this with clients where I keep them accountable for, I don't know, going back into dating, and we really check in every week. Okay, so have you made your account for Bumble or whatever they're using? Have you reached out to some people? Have you communicated with some people? Have you gone on a date, etc., etc.? And that's the perfect example of in the original session, right? They would be saying to me like, oh, I feel like I want to get back into dating. And then they do the first step of like maybe downloading the app, and then 2 days later the inspiration doesn't really hit them anymore, or the excitement doesn't really hit them anymore. Maybe procrastination comes in, perfectionism. So figure out what the universe, life, however, is showing to you. Figure out what is exciting you, what is inspiring you, but then also make it into a habit, or try to have the discipline to actually follow up on the thing that you think excites you, right? Because only when you have, I believe only when you have the discipline to keep on going on the things, you can actually reap the benefits of the thing that's exciting you. I have some journaling prompts. People who know me and who've been to my classes know that I love journaling. So I just have a few journaling prompts. The first one is, what excites you? Of course. The second one is, what do you appreciate about your life right now? And then the last one is, how's the universe asking for your attention? And I recommend journaling that out or talking that out with a friend on a walk or on a phone call and just see what comes up and then just follow that. Because I really think that our inspiration or the things that are exciting us in our lives are really the things that we can bring the furthest. And I've had this so many times in my life, even meeting Nikko. It's so funny because I used to really always be someone who like would get hung up on one guy and like not get over that guy for like 2 years and be like on and off with that person on whatsoever and always be like, oh, all the other people are like boring or whatever. When most of them were probably just not toxic. And I remember when I met Nikko, I just moved to Berlin. I moved back to Berlin and I moved into a WG with my like 2 girlfriends of mine. We rented an Airbnb and we were like, okay, we're gonna go on 2 dates a week or something like that. I don't remember how many. It was definitely at least 2, I think. And we were just like in this energy of dating, and somehow we just felt excited about that. We didn't know where that was gonna lead us. We didn't know whether that was gonna lead to like, a like long-term partner, a fling, or just someone who shows you the city, right? But it just felt right. This excitement of, like the 3 girls, just like hot girl summer, I think is how you call it at the moment. And just going on dates. And through that, like this is literally how I met Nikko. So I went to yoga, something that I also got super excited about again in that moment, because I just moved back to Berlin and I went to Jiva Mukti yoga in Kreuzberg all the time. And I was like, oh, like this is somehow this, I'm just loving this, going here every week or multiple times a week and just doing yoga. And in my yoga class, I then, oh no, my God, it goes even back further. So no, I went to a yoga class. I went to a yoga class and I was waiting for my class to start, and out of the class before, like tons of girls came out of that yoga class, and I was like, oh my God, like why are there so many people, so many girls and good-looking women going to this yoga class? Like what is going on here? And then the yoga teacher walked out right afterwards. I was like, okay, I understand now. It was a very attractive yoga teacher. And so I decided to start going to that class as well, because, follow your excitement. And then I kept going to this yoga class. I mean, not just because he was good looking, but he was also a very good teacher. But I'm going to be honest, the reason why I first went into the class was because it was a very good looking yoga teacher. And then I kept going to the yoga class. And in the yoga class, then I met another guy that we started talking, and I said to him that I wanted to try acro yoga. Again, something that excited me in the moment. For some reason, I wanted to try acro yoga in that time. And we talked about it, and then we didn't see each other again for a week. And then in the next week, he was like, hey, my acro yoga partner. So for people who don't know acro yoga, it's like acrobatic yoga. You do it together. I don't know, as a kid, if you've ever had like your parent just put you on their feet and like done the plane with you, kind of like that, but just a bit more advanced. And he was like, we're meeting up in Gleisdreieck, a place in Berlin, and do you want to come? And do you want to like do acro yoga with me on that day? And I was like, yeah, sure, let's do it. And I like really had a bit of a crush on that guy. Not like a serious crush, like the kind of crush where you're like, I barely know you and I make up the story in my head of who you are. And then I went to acro yoga with him, and then there is where I actually met Nikko. So this is really, again, like a short version of how we met, but that's when I actually met Nikko at the acro yoga. And I'm just saying, all of this, like the way Nikko came into my life, was purely following my next excitement without trying to manifest a partner, a long-term partner. And I even still remember coming home from the first acro yoga session where I hadn't even like super connected with Nikko. That was only the session afterwards. I came home and I walked up the stairs and I was thinking to myself, if the next person that I'm really gonna love in my life, or like the next partner that I'm gonna have this deep, intimate love with, comes in like in 10 years, I'm fine. I have such a great life, just dating, meeting people, exploring this new city that I moved into. And I really wholeheartedly felt it. Like I really was absolutely fine being single for the next 10 years or however it would take, because I just knew my partner was going to come, or the person that I wanted to have in my life was really going to come eventually, but also because I was just so happy where I was. And that's really just one example of how following my excitement has brought me so far. I could give you the same like kind of steps of how I came to coaching. I could give you the same sort of steps how I came to live in this apartment. So that's all I wanted to say today. I don't know how long I've talked now, but I think I'm just going to keep it here. Go through the journaling prompts, think about it on maybe your drive home from work, or speak to your friends about it, and feel free to message me what's exciting you right now and what are the themes in your life right now. And I'm probably going to put it in the show notes, the 2 exercises of how you find the themes in your life that you want to bring into your life, that you want to follow in your life right now, but also the journaling prompts, because I'm not sure how clear it was in the just the flow of talking right now. And whenever you're listening to this, I hope you have a wonderful, beautiful day, and feel free to subscribe to this podcast and give me a 5-star review if you do like the podcast. Wherever this is gonna go, it might help me at some point. All right, have a wonderful day, and I'll speak to you soon again.